We had, let's see, right here, Ian in the chat says, I'm watching live today just to hear Danny tee off on the new top 25. Danny was sprinting to make the show today. Mm-hmm. And, that is how excited he is about this new AP Top 25. If you haven't got a chance to see it, no changes, at least in terms of the ranking of 1 through 7, but there are, as we projected, a disbursement of some of those first place votes. Only 35 first place votes went to the Georgia Bulldogs. 12 went to Michigan. 10 went to Texas. Florida State still with 4. Ohio State just with 1. So 5 different teams getting first place votes. The Wolverines and the Longhorns starting to pick up some of those votes that Georgia is losing. Further down in the rankings, as expected, a big drop for Utah and a big drop for a team that Don brings it up. LSU with 2 losses, ranked 23rd, is a joke. Danny, is there any argument for 3-2 LSU to still be a top 25 team?
Absolutely not. It's the only thing going for them is what conference they play in. It's just lazy to put them in there still. It makes 0 sense whatsoever. Not to mention, I don't mind if there's a team that has more losses, than another team if they have built a resume that is worthy. Who have they beaten? Like, where's the big win for LSU?
Like, does Florida have a better 3-2 profile? Because the LSU argument to me is probably just, I think they're better, right? Right. But it's a power ratings argument, right? Like, you still believe the high end talent on the roster, what they can do offensively, and you're just going to include them. I just think at this point in the season, like Danny said, it is a little bit lazy to not at least explore an undefeated Maryland or even a 4-1 Texas A&M, which looked really impressive against Arkansas.
I think that's fair. Does Arkansas have any wins over FBS teams?
Oh, because they've lost. Arkansas is also, I think, one of the.
That's A&M's best win, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, so they I can understand keeping A&M out. They'll have a chance this week. With LSU, look, it was a 2.5 point spread. It was a field goal game. If you thought it was a coin flip going in, if you thought LSU was a top 15 level team going in, and they play to what the spread was, basically, spread's 2.5, you lose by 3. That's fairly standard, right? Then I can understand it from the people who are doing the power ratings. From the resume, I completely, obviously, they're not there. Like, they do have the wins over Arkansas and Mississippi State, but I don't think those teams are very good, personally. So, we'll see on LSU. I'm a little surprised they stayed in. I wouldn't have Maryland in, to be honest. I don't think they're great, and obviously the teams they've played are kind of terrible across the board. But I can see the LSU argument. I don't necessarily agree with it.
I wouldn't have LSU ranked. If you're 5 games into a season and you've lost 40% of your games, you shouldn't be ranked. I don't know why this is that difficult for people to understand.
Should Tennessee be ranked? Have we thought about this? They played Virginia, which is awful. UTSA without its starting quarterback, right? They've played South Carolina, which is probably going to miss a bowl at this point. Not a good football team. And they got blitzed by Florida. Like, why is Tennessee ranked other than the fact that they're in the SEC and they started out the season high?
Well, they're 4-1.
Yeah.
Who are the 4?
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like we could pick apart every single team at this point, like saying, like, you're 4-1. Why do you deserve to be ranked?
Isn't that what we're supposed to do, though? Isn't that the job of the Associated Press?
Yeah, okay, well then tell me the teams that should be teams that should be ranked instead of Tennessee. Because you just said Maryland shouldn't be ranked. So who should be ranked?
What about
the 2 teams you want to put in over the Vols?
Air Force.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Air Force has done nothing but crush its opponents.
What about Kansas State?
That was mine.
They have wins over UCF and Troy. Both those teams are better than South Carolina in my numbers. So, like,
I would take Kansas State. Honestly, Kansas State just got hurt because they didn't play. If Kansas State had gone out to play Cincinnati last week and they beat them they'd probably beat Cincinnati by 22 points. Then they'd probably be up in the top 25. They just were stuck idle as people were trying to move around their ballots. So I think
I would be replacing LSU with these teams. Like, I don't know if I'd replace Tennessee with them.
What about country roads? Take me home. What about West Virginia? Their wins are up there. I mean, their schedule's been tough. Their only loss to Penn State. Like it's one of those things. This is what drives me nuts is you get such a favorable ranking based on preseason perception where you were. I mean, they were picked dead last. Nobody thought they'd be any good. Here they are coming off, another nice win on the road. After they've already had a few other impressive ones. Just to me, it seems like they should be getting some love.
I know you didn't see it because you were busy running through the jungles of Central Park this morning, but I tweeted this morning, West Virginia has trailed at halftime at all 5 of its games. And it's 4-1.
It's TCU.
Yes.
They got the TCU match.
I'm sorry, it hasn't trailed at halftime. It has not scored first in any of its games, and it's 4-1.
What about Clemson? Seriously, like if LSU's ranked, we need to consider Clemson. Like Clemson has better wins than Tennessee or LSU does, right?
If
it has played a really
hold on, FAU, Charleston Southern, Syracuse.
Yeah, whipping Syracuse on the road is certainly better than whipping Mississippi State on the road or squeaking out one against Arkansas.
I don't know that that's really that clear.
I think
Syracuse could be 7-5 by the end of the season.
You think Syracuse is the worst team than Mississippi State?
I don't. It could be. I'm saying I'm not just going to assume that Mississippi State is a lot worse than Syracuse. Like Syracuse could barely be scrapping for a bowl game by the end of the year.
But
all right, common data point: Clemson was actually competitive against Florida State. Florida State blew out LSU.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. Listen, I don't want to rank either Clemson or LSU. I don't think either should be ranked. If you've lost 40% of your games, you don't deserve to be ranked. But
why does a win over Syracuse, who's a good team, not great team, why does it feel anywhere near as good as USC's win over Colorado? Like if Dino Babers was out there, bringing in celebrities to the sideline, and he was out there and was a phenomenon unlike anything we've ever seen, that win feels bigger. The Pac-12, who has been, positioned as this best team in college football, and I'm not pushing that much on that, but the fact that Oregon and USC are getting like these huge resume builders because they beat a team that barely beat Colorado State is a little bit ridiculous. And I think it's going to be interesting because who do you think finishes the season with a better record, Syracuse or Colorado? Syracuse.
I don't think Oregon's ranked in the top 10 because it beat Colorado. I think Oregon's ranked in the top 10 because it's beating the hell out of everybody.
Agreed. But they're getting massive credit for that when they should have beat the crap out of Colorado. But USC should, and USC did drop because
USC dropped.
Yeah.
They got a lot of airtime. I don't know if they got a lot of voting credit.
Yeah, it is looking less and less. I mean, obviously the rankings literally have this USC at 9, and then that top 4, 5, 6 spots. It does not look like USC is going to be up there making a real argument against a Georgia, Michigan, a Texas, and Ohio State, a Florida State, until they go and they beat another one of these big Pac-12 contenders or Notre Dame a little bit later on in the season. Anything else from the rankings stand out?
I'm not going to go into individual. How do you have? Let's see here.
Colorado still got a vote. Well.
How do you have
was it Jablonski?
I don't know. I didn't put the effort into searching it down. I probably should have.
How do you have Texas 9th on your ballot?
Ooh.
Nobody else has Texas lower than 6.
All right.
Mike Nazoliak of the Bloomington Herald-Times has them 9th.
There's this weird argument to be had about the quarterbacks who Texas and actually Oklahoma have both played. I've seen it on social a little bit, and it's fair, right? Texas played the Wyoming backup, the Kansas backup, Jalen Milroe,
the Baylor backup.
The Baylor backup. Is there one more? Or are they 4-0? They're 5-0.
5-0. Yeah.
JT
Daniels.
JT Daniels. Yeah. Like, so there is that argument to be had. I guess they have not faced a decent quarterback yet. You know who else hasn't? Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma got the Iowa State backup, right? I guess he's the starter now, but
Rocco's playing pretty good for
Rocco's playing all right.
Yeah,
for a freshman,
for Iowa State, which is a terrible offensive scheme, but like, and they don't recruit well. But like, yeah, I get. I mean, he's still an Iowa State backup. Emory Jones, who we know is not a good player. Who else is Oklahoma played?
Tulsa,
right? No, it was a Tulsa third stringer.
And then SMU.
SMU, which Stone is just not impressed so far this year. That SMU has been a defensive-led football team. So, like, I guess there's some questions about both those teams in terms of their defenses. Like, the defensive numbers are insane, but they have not faced a quality quarterback yet between them.
I don't know, man. I'm going to go with the Frank Grimes Simpsons meme when Homer wins the contest against the third graders and he's yelling, but he's competing against children. And Lenny responds with, yeah, and he's beating their brains out. Texas is competing against second-ranked quarterbacks, and they're beating their brains out. Oklahoma is beating teams' brains out. Stop worrying about who teams have played. Worry about how they're playing.
To a point, I agree. But, man, look, like, there is sort of the whole, like, quality takes a little bit longer to like really cement itself than incompetence does, right? Like we can watch, like, okay, like that team just doesn't know what they're doing, and that incompetence is going to be imputed on the flip side as like defensive dominance. You know, I think it's fair to question like who they've played a little bit, but they have smashed them. To your point,
yeah,
they're nearly halfway through their schedule. At
38
what point can we start taking it seriously?
Sure. Well, like Minnesota, like, remember you were fraudulent Fornelli on them a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Like they hadn't played anybody. Like it happens. Illinois last year, I mean, was really, really damn good, but they also, from an opposing quarterback perspective, had played basically nobody when they finally.
Well, that's just because they play in the Big Ten.
38-6 against Baylor, followed up by 40-14 against Kansas. Quite a statement start for the Longhorns there to Big 12 play, exerting their dominance on both sides of the ball.
Is Michigan the best game control? They have to be, right? Because now that Washington had like a semi stumble, I mean, against Arizona, Michigan's got to be the one that hasn't had that moment at all. Against Cakewalk, I get it, but everybody's had some cakewalks they've struggled against.
I will put Michigan has been in control for 59.6% of its snaps with a 14 point lead or more. And that is the highest in the country by a lot. Washington is second, or USC is second at 55.59%. Washington is third. But I will also push back. Like, we have made a lot of fun of Michigan's non-conference schedule, and I'm not going to argue that it's good. But I will point out Bowling Green just beat Georgia Tech. And UNLV is looking like one of the better teams in the Mountain West to this point. And those were both on Michigan's non-conference schedule. Like ECU still stinks, but Bowling Green and UNLV might be better than we were giving them credit for.
That's true. I mean, Michigan jumped back into the number 2 spot in the CBS Sports 133 this week. And when I was writing about it this morning, I am interpreting that as our voters were sick of watching Michigan play with its food at home against inferior competition. They go on the road against a Big Ten opponent and absolutely work them. Okay, thank you. Check mark. Like, you finally look like something closer to that team that we had at number 2 in the preseason. Washington also, after that 7-point scare, we got way over our skis last week at the CBS Sports 133, had Washington number 2. Yeah, after that Arizona game, fall back to earth a little bit. And be sure to check that out over at cbssports.com.